a $5 billion project that could transform rail, but the rail transit plan could be stalled at the station. There are several legal challenges to the project, and rail opponents say that the city is not being upfront about the impact of an elevated system would have on our neighborhoods. Our partners at Civil Beat also had a few questions as well, raising concerns about the parent company of a contractor that's been hired to build and operate the train system. We're talking about Ansaldo. John Temple joins us live via Skype. Along with John, we have Mayor Peter Carlisle, who's in studio live, and Maeda Timpson, president of Go Rail. First of all, thanks for joining us here this morning. And Mayor, I want to start with you. You issued an op-ed piece this weekend in the paper, in the Star Advertiser, and you touted things like easing of traffic and congestion and added jobs during construction. But what is your answer to those accusations that there's an unrealistic cost estimate for the rail project, that it could escalate maybe even more than $5.3 billion, and little evidence that a significant number of people will actually use the rail?
Well, first off, it's obviously getting worse and worse out there. I mean, that thing that you just had on the tube, showing what the congestion was like out there with all that red, okay, that's the problem we're talking about. If you haven't seen that, you don't live in that area. So here's a copy of what we wrote, and it says basically, unequivocally, rail is Oahu's future, which is clearly and unequivocally true. In terms of the cost estimate, I don't think people really understand that we're going to be able to do well with costs, whether it's a down economy or whether it's a good economy, because if it's a good economy, then we're going to increase the GET taxes that we're going to get, and if it's a down economy, we're going to get it for less expenses in terms of the amount of supplies that we're going to get, the construction materials, as well as the labor. So it was put together in a fashion that looked at both options as well as maintaining the status quo. So to suggest that right now we're in a bad financial situation, in fact, the opposite is absolutely and unequivocally true.
Mayor, let me follow up with that. What happens if the projected number of riders does not match what you guys are projecting? We saw in Puerto Rico where only about 20% of the projected riders started riding that rail. Then they had to tax some of the citizens more than 5%. Are taxes perhaps a consequence if the projected riders is not matched?
If the projected riders there are going to be a number of significant differences, but there's no reason to believe that to be true right now. If you take a look at how we do with the bus, we do it exceptionally well. And in every city where they have a robust use of public transportation already, it just gets better and better and better, particularly if you think about the type of transit-oriented development that's going to be going on that will increase a reason to get on it on any day, any given day in question.
And John Temple from civilbeat.com joining us. John, what's your question for the mayor?
Good morning, Mayor. Mayor, I think there's some questions about procedure, and your top attorney advised two city council members who went on a fact-finding trip about Ansaldo not to ask certain questions and told them not to provide specifics about what they found out on their trip. How was that in the interest of Honolulu taxpayers, especially when they were spending tax dollars for their trip?
It has to do with anticipating litigation. Your attorneys will tell you every chance that you have that if you make a lot of statements, what's going to happen is it's going to be turned against you in litigation. So that's an appropriate thing for an attorney to tell their client. I'm not going to second-guess an attorney who understands exactly what the ramifications of the litigation are, and to suggest that he's somehow hiding something other than doing his job as an attorney is mistaken.
And Maeda, thank you for joining us as well. You've been a longtime advocate and really pushed for state and federal funding in this project. But the fact is, a lot of the project hinges on money from Congress and the outcome of several lawsuits. Is it fair to be presenting this project like it's a done deal?
Well, I think what's really fair is that all the processes has been done. We've been talking about rail for over 40 years. Unless you live on the west side or on central Oahu, you have no clue of what life is really like out there. And the opponents, none of them live out there. They don't feel our pain, except, of course, former Governor Cayetano, who golfs there during non-peak hours. So it's a done deal. I hope it's a done deal, and I have confidence that it is. And I like spending my tax dollars for a change for something that's good for the West Side.
It's an ongoing battle, and we thank you, Mayor, as well as Ms. Timpson, for joining us here this morning, as well as John Temple from civilbeat.com.